So today I thought we'd have a very quick chat on watering your seed trays. Now at this time of the year, I like to water my seed trays from underneath for a number of reasons. Number one, it helps make sure that the compost is fully hydrated ahead of sowing. The next reason is that seeds that need light for germination might accidentally be pushed below the soil surface with the constant overhead watering. The compost will then cover the seeds, blocking out the light and potentially preventing germination from occurring. And then if you constantly overhead water, especially if it's dry, so you're needing to water a lot, what can happen is eventually you'll create a bit of a cap on the surface of the compost, and then your seeds will either get marooned above the cap, preventing them from accessing the compost, the air and the water that is contained within the soil particles, or they could get buried and trapped below the cap, preventing them from being able to continue their germination process and break through into the light. Finally, watering from underneath is going to use a lot less water. When you water your seed trays with a hose attachment, the vast majority of it's not going to land in the seed tray anyway. So watering from underneath is a very good way to conserve your supply. I'm all set up, ready to show you. Now you need to make sure that you've got a nice deep watering tray, not too deep so that the water goes over the top of the compost, because that will knock out all of the air, but deep enough that they get nicely submerged. Now this is a seed tray filled with compost, and you can see that you can put the cells straight in the water, and you can see how deep the water level will come up once it starts hydrating the cells. However, filled with water and compost is going to make this seed tray really heavy, awkward to take out, and you might snap it. Tend to do is use a rigid bottom tray. However, what happens is these ridges will then raise the cells up, and I've got them side by side. So this is the cells without a bottom tray, and this is the cells with a bottom tray. Can you see how much more shallow the water is? So it needs to be deep enough that it will get past the outer tray and be able to hydrate the cells within. Sure that you always use clean tap water for your seedlings. You don't want to use any water from a reservoir or from a water butt, because that can contain pathogens. Older plants, they are much more robust, but the seedlings are babies after all. Pop these in probably for about half an hour, 20 minutes. They will float ever so slightly to start with, but they'll soon sink once the water starts to get into the compost. Let's put another one there. This is quite a good job. If you're busy, you can hydrate your trays and then come back later on this afternoon and do your sowing. Now being about 20 minutes, half an hour, and the top of the compost is glistening, so that's how you judge it. If the water is glistening on the soil surface, then you know you're about done. The water will get trapped in the bottom of this tray, so that I don't waste any water or drip it all over myself, I'm gonna just leave it sitting on the edge of the grow bag tray just to drain thoroughly before sowing. And just to give you a comparison, here is a hydrated seed tray, and this is the one that we started with. As we head into winter, we will actually stop watering from underneath, because the seed trays will take a really long time to dry out, and in a freezing cold greenhouse, it's the water that freezes. So it's best to keep the trays on the drier side. Your common sense will kick in. You'll know when the time is right. But if you want some reassurance, you can always follow me on my stories on Instagram, where I'll give you constant updates as to what's going on in my greenhouse.